All right, Jesse on Fire, welcome back to the channel. Now, we are going to talk about Chael Sonnen talking about Tito Ortiz because there is a lot here. Now, first of all, he made, well, let me actually say this. Chael is hilarious when he breaks Tito's balls and when he breaks John Jones' balls. There's like something about the Chael relationship with those two guys where you know Chael is making them mad. Like he posts videos, they get mad when they watch him. And there is literally nothing those guys could say back to Chael that would make Chael mad. Like he just would laugh no matter what. Like no matter what they say, Chael's just gonna laugh at it, you know? Which is, he can't lose. That is a key piece of information for everyone to just stick in their brain bank, dude. Whoever cares less wins, okay? Like if you're single or you're, you know, getting divorced or whatever and you're going back into the dating pool, this is the most critical piece of advice I can give you, okay? Between you and the person you're dating, whoever cares less wins. Or at the very least has the strength, right? That's just an objective fact. And that's exactly true in this case also. So, you know, I've been wishing on a star that Josh Fabia someday would respond to me so that I could say, wow, he really hurt my feelings. What'd you say, Josh? What'd you say? You called me a... I can't even think of what he would say, but I would laugh for sure. I would love it more than anything because then I would be able to make more videos about him. But anywho, So actually, before I get into it, if you like the content, subscribe and then ring the bell so you get notifications when I post more stuff. But yeah, by the way, Michael Bisping, if you see this, I really, really want to talk to you. If you could hit me up on Instagram, that would be amazing. I want to understand how you make your live streams look so good. Like your live streams look, again, just everybody can just take this as me pushing any traffic over to Bisping's channel because it's awesome. But like, his live streams look amazing. I need to figure out how to do that. Like my live streams need to look like this instead of looking like garbage. Anyway, whatever. Okay, so Chael. Okay. So Chael revealed two things in this video, right? Three things actually. He revealed Tito to be, I don't know, embarrassing as it relates to his relationship with his, you know, common law wife. There's a weird thing there. B, Chael just directly accused Tito of working the fight and getting knocked out on purpose.
And when Tito took that dive, it's a really tough spot because who's going to say he took the dive? It can't be Anderson. Anderson wants the credit. Anderson can't, no, I hit him. I really turned that hip over. I've worked on that in practice 1,000 times. Anderson's not going to come out and say that the shot didn't have any power behind it. So you end up in this really tough spot, but Tito has now gone even a little bit further saying that the shot was also illegal. He knows it's illegal because the back of my head is, and I quote, sore as hell. So we have this punch that we've all seen that was done by a much smaller man 21 seconds into a contest who was wearing a pillow on his hand known as a 16-ounce boxing glove that rendered one athlete completely unconscious. A reaction that athlete has never had an entire career of fighting.
Which is hilarious, being that it's almost certainly true. And C, he reveals himself as a propagandist for the UFC and not in such direct fashion as he normally does. So we'll talk about all three of those things. So A, okay, so what we're talking about with the wife, right? Like, so you guys saw the thing where Anderson Silva gave his first class seat to Tito's wife, and then so Tito's wife was able to sit up with Tito, and Tito took a video. He was like, man, Anderson, you're a class act, man. Thank you so much. Even though Tito's like, even though I can afford a first class ticket with all the money I made betting on Anderson Silva to knock me out in the first round, right? What were the odds on that, right? 8-1, and I put 100 grand on it. Good for me. So, yeah, I mean, if anybody is thinking that, you know, that's a small win there. Like if you work a fight like that, you know, like you get knocked out in the first round as an example. Like let's say, you know, I don't know if they'd be 8-1, but with boxing gloves on, I would imagine they were not lower than, or not, you know, you weren't getting less than probably 5-1, at the smallest, like 4-1, probably more like 5-6. So you get, you know, you spread out, you do $10,000 bets. How much did you make? You make about $500,000, dude, right? Made about $500,000 taking a dive. A big incentive for someone to do such a thing, right? So there's that. But I'm just stepping on the remainder of my video. Not the remainder, there's a whole other thing. But he says, look at what Anderson Silva did. After knocking me out, he gave his seat up and gave it to my wife. And Chael was like, hey, dude, so your wife was on the plane and you had a first class ticket and you made her go sit in the back? Like, That is actually hilarious. I would never do that. Like, I would never do that. I would 100% give my seat to Gabrielle, even if we were separated. Like, as a matter of fact, especially if we were separated, because I'd be like, come on, Like, there's no way she's, and I don't even know that was actually the first I had heard that Tito and her were separated. But, like, if she's on that plane, clearly they have a working relationship, or else why would she have been there? So, like, he took the first class seat, really, and made her sit in the back? That's, like, super fucked up, dude. But, Anderson Silva was like, oh, weird. I come from Brazil, where, like, we actually, this would be considered super selfish and weird. So she can have my seat, She can definitely have my seat. Because I bet on myself to win in the first round also, because I assumed you were going to throw the fight and figured I could probably knock you out. But anyway, so there's that whole thing. Now, the work, right? The work, we kind of already went over. Big incentive to do that. Huge incentive to do that. Now, I haven't heard any other commentators just directly call it out. And the only reason I'm doing it is because Chael did already, right? I wouldn't have said that directly on the channel. But you got to wonder, you're like, given that I know, this is like, here's the thing. Do I think that the UFC calls Chael and is like, hey, man, so look, this is what we need you to do with the party line, all right? Like, here's what's going on. You got 1 million subscribers. We need you to do X, Y, Z. And then he goes out and does that. I don't think that that's how that goes. I would guess it's more along the lines of, I have lucrative contracts with ESPN, and the UFC is kind enough to, facilitate those relationships. And so I'm going to do whatever I can to help the organization. Something like that, right? Because that's exactly what I would do. 100% exactly what I would do. If you're not loyal to the person who signs your paychecks, you are not going to be very successful in business. It's as simple as that. That's why you will never hear me go off on Google on this channel ever, because I make money from Google. Google AdSense is where I make, get paid from this thing. So, like, people who go on here and they're all, oh my God, YouTube is crazy. You're censoring all my stuff. It's baloney, man. It's like, be careful with that talk, man. I think what you meant to say was Google has an incredible user interface. They've always been really fair and generous with me. Even when they deleted one of my videos, in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have posted that video. I think that's probably a better thing for you to say in this case, because it's not a fight you can win. You can only lose, right? You can only lose. And everything I said is true. They are fair. So just why? Okay. Anyway, so there's that, right? But I always look at his videos through that lens, because when it comes to fighter pay, listen, I don't even get involved in the fighter pay conversation in terms of like whether I think the UFC is paying too much or too little or whatever. Because again, I haven't seen their books. But I find Chael's takes to be very company friendly, like to the point where sometimes they just straight up don't even make sense. Like, as an example, after the Cyril Gane one. Now, I think this was partially him just fucking with Jon Jones. But basically, after Cyril announced how much money he made for his fight, which was like $350K, which after taxes and everything else is probably $150K, right? After he pays everyone out, pays his taxes, whatever, it's less than 200. That's for sure. It probably sounds like a lot of money, right? Except that he's not going to fight again until he doesn't really know. And you only see your bank account going down. It's not that exciting, right? But Chael's take on that was, and Jon Jones is asking for more money. Why would he get more than Cyril? He's never even fought at heavyweight. Why should he? If Cyril's fighting for 350, why should Jon get more than 350? This is such a patently absurd thing to say that I almost laugh and think like he must just be fucking with Jon, right? But anytime it comes to fighter pay, here's the thing. His party line is always just shut up and take your fights and fight, right? Just shut up, take your fights and fight. And in a lot of cases, that is exactly what you should do. I mean, that is what a lot of people should do, but not everyone, not everyone. And again, I'm not trying to get on the wrong side of this conversation, nor would I ever. But let's just say to give that advice to certain people, given certain circumstances, would just be very, very, very poor advice if your concern is them getting paid fairly or whatnot, or getting paid as much as they could get paid, right? Which is, no one's ever going to get paid over what their market value is. I mean, that's just is what it is. The market value can be determined by a bunch of different things. Like, so like, let's say a fighter is demanding $7 million a fight, and you know for sure that fighter cannot get that $7 million anywhere else. But there's something about that particular fighter where he poses a different type of threat, where if he left the organization, he could boost the value of a competing organization enough to where his actual value is not just what he brings in. It's about making sure that outcome doesn't happen. Like we can't have him go be the champion for this organization or whatever it is, right? So like market value is a weird thing to calculate, but it always works out, like it generally always works out. In certain cases, UFC, I think, kind of makes deals out of gratitude. I think that like I'm just trying to like read the tea leaves, and I get the feeling that Khabib got an incredibly favorable deal, and it's out of like, like if you're cool with the UFC, I will say this for sure. Some guys, it seems like, if you're kind of cool with the UFC, they seem to take care of you. I can only think of a couple examples that way. Most of the guys who got huge contracts had to make it kind of difficult, because how else are you going to negotiate? Masvidal, huge contract, made it difficult, right? Colby, I think, has a bigger contract, made it difficult. Nate Diaz, same. Conor, everyone think, oh, Conor did whatever. Conor fake retired a dozen times, dude. Anyway, neither here nor there. But that's all just preface for whenever Chael talks about anything, I'm like, so what is how can I connect this back to something favorable for the UFC? And in this case, it's simple, right? Like beyond just getting to break Tito's balls, how would pointing out that fight was a work favor the UFC? It's a real simple answer. Doesn't, there shouldn't need to be multiple choice here, right? Triller is an organization that is in some way competition to the UFC, especially if they're offering older fighters big paydays, because then they have to negotiate against that. Especially like in the case of Masvidal. I just did a video about that. Like Masvidal has 2 fights left on his deal, and Jake Paul says he wants Masvidal. Masvidal is going to fight at some point soon. He'll have 1 fight left on his deal. Okay, they're going to make Masvidal sign a new deal before they give him his last fight, and ultimately they're going to have to offer up against what he could get fighting Jake Paul. Like, or at least that's going to have to get factored in. So, anyway, but Triller is competition in that capacity. So if you say that a fight was a work, right? Like if you say that the co-main event was a work, which it was most likely, what does that say about Triller? How is that, are they like a super legit organization that everybody should start throwing their money at? Or are they now a much, a delegitimized organization that's kind of like a shit sideshow? I mean, they already were that, but like, even more so now. So like when I was watching that, I was like, man, this is like an undercover triple whammy. Just, pound Tito, pound him for throwing the fight, pound him for not giving up a seat, and then pound Triller in general as an invalid organization where you can't even trust the outcome of the fights. Pretty fucking smart, man. Pretty smart. If I wasn't making it obvious, this was me giving props to Chael, because he's the king. But can't wear the crown forever, my friend. So, just saying. Anyway, if you like the content, subscribe and ring the bell. Tell your friends. Yes, I know you want this shirt. Bad. This is a Zero Foxtrot shirt. This is my new sponsor, Zero Foxtrot. And I couldn't figure out what it meant, Zero Foxtrot. And then Gabrielle's all, it means zero fucks. I was like, oh, for sure. Good job, Gabrielle. Anywho, love you guys. Peace.